Hi, I'm Lindsay Mingy, commercial real estate broker, and I'm joined here today by my friend Elizabeth Young. Elizabeth, you are a certified interior designer, but I feel like that doesn't do justice in describing everything that you do. Essentially, creating magic, coming into commercial buildings and creating environments that people love to be inside of. Your company is Cultura, and really you speak to the culture of a building and creating that, engineering it to create a unique experience for each commercial property. So thank you so much for being here with me today. As I think we're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel, people are starting to be able to return to business. Consumers are starting to be able to return to their daily, weekly activities. Some states are now open for business. And as we start to look ahead in the weeks and kind of getting back to normal, I'm hoping that you can share with us today, what should we be thinking about as property owners? What are some sort of amenities and design and engineering concepts that we should look to implement so that everyone feels safe, our tenants feel safe, asking their employees to come back to our buildings, asking their clients and customers to come back to our buildings?
Yeah, there are definitely some general guidelines that we're looking at. One of the things that we are following closely is what OSHA, the CDC, and the state of California specifically are requiring or suggesting, and being able to take a look at that 6-foot physical distancing and how that relates to the spaces throughout the common areas that are offered throughout the space. The amenity spaces, whether it's the lobby, whether it's common training rooms or conference rooms, and really taking a deeper dive into how those can be reassessed and utilized in this new environment. Another aspect of it is taking a look at where are we going in the sense of touchless touchless interactions. Most public places have touchless, the automatic doors when you walk in. Is that going to be something that's going to be more of a common change that we're going to see in some of these buildings? Really taking a look at the visual cues when you walk in. There's some design nudging, if you will, arranging the furniture to kind of corral people in certain directions, whether it's they're coming in and out of the building. Like taking a look at, there's a flow of traffic that's exiting the building, and we want to try to take into consideration the circulation paths, and we're placing furniture within spaces and using those arrangements to direct people one way or another, or how to sit, how to face, how to interact. A lot of lobbies in these spaces are used as touchdown points for people waiting for their next meeting, or in between, the appointments. And what does that look like versus having a cluster and a large sofa? And, are those going to be used in that same manner? Are we looking, to separate those out to make more individual areas, and really trying to analyze how we can best move forward with those spaces and help alleviate some of those intimate settings that are provided.
Fascinating. I love that you talked about touchless surfaces. I was just reading about that earlier. There are door handles that are they sanitize themselves. And I heard of a company in Las Vegas that is designing, it seems space age, but kind of the sanitation type chambers that people walk through. Is that something that you're seeing probably in the near future, that buildings and retail centers and shopping centers are going to start to implement?
Yeah, I think depending on what their market is, what their niche is, I think there are going to be different ways in which that they address the situation of visitors coming into the space. Are there going to be certain areas where they're going to be doing temperature readings or testings? Or there was even one article that I was reading that they were talking about in more dramatic terms, like isolation rooms, if you will. If someone's not feeling well, where are they going, and where are we putting them for the time being until they're able to leave the office, or are they still able to work? And, what does that space look like? And what are the materials in there, and the cleanability? A lot of this is also looking at the cleanability of surfaces that are specified throughout the building. In my area of expertise, more on the furniture, but then that translates into, if the door handles, are self-sanitizing, and there's voice activation and touchless areas that are helping protect the well-being. If the furniture and the surfaces and the tables aren't measuring up to that, then what good are all the other things if it's not a holistic approach? So really taking a look at the cleanability of surfaces, the durability of surfaces, and how they can withstand some of the harsh chemicals, even just from, maybe not even chemicals, but from a UV perspective. I know there are some studies out there looking at just the ultraviolet light being an option for helping eliminate the virus on surfaces. And we have outdoor furniture that withstands UV rays, and maybe utilizing that more in the interior of spaces.
So fascinating. And I think too, just increasing the visibility of perhaps the sanitation efforts that are going on. Typically property owners, we have our janitorial crews come in the evenings when everyone's gone, and we forget that there's a lot of work that goes into cleaning and sanitizing the space, because it happens, almost under the cover of darkness. So transitioning to where we're more visible about those efforts throughout our property and things like that.
Definitely. We're definitely going to see an increase of that cleaning going on throughout the day, more day porters being throughout buildings, and even posting cleaning guidelines, what's being done within the space to provide that comfort and that reassurance that the space is being maintained for the well-being of the occupants.
Sure. And, I know most of us are used to, going into a restaurant, a restroom inside the restaurant, and seeing the sign, employees, please, must wash your hands. But can we expect to see more of those signs throughout, throughout office buildings and shopping centers? Please maintain physical distance, remember to wash your hands, things like that.
I definitely think so. I know a lot of the signage companies that we work with were quick to roll out just, even placards to be able to put on the walls or the floors to remind people and to show people, where they need to be and how close they are, and, having the visual cues, but also having that verbiage right in front of you to be able to, just reinforce it and drive it home to kind of respect each other's space and give each other space during this. And yes, I definitely think signage, just the communication of that, for sure, of all of those different changes that are going to take place.
It'll be interesting. But I know I think most everyone is anxious to have this behind us and get back to life, I guess, as we know it. Over the past decade or two, there's been an emphasis on green buildings, sustainable buildings that are environmentally conscious. It's kind of setting the gold standard that, okay, this property has design and engineered features that, protect the earth and its limited resources. Do you foresee there being a new gold standard for commercial properties in relation to their ability to promote and protect public health?
Definitely. There has been an institute in place, a well building institute or well building standards. And I really think that's going to take off more than it already has. It's been something that's been starting to take ground and get traction over the past few years. I know right now on their website, it looks like there's about 4,100 registered and certified well projects within 59 countries across the world. I think we're going to see that increase drastically. That standard kind of withholds air quality, movement throughout the space, the thermal comfort, sound, materials, community, and it really encompasses a lot of what we're looking at going back into the workplace right now. How a building itself provides nourishment or nutritional value to an employee. What do those on-site cafes bring? Are they, providing healthy options? Are the vending machines providing healthy food for the tenants? But also movement throughout the space. How walkable is the space? How can tenants get out and about and do so safely? One thing that's kind of been in the back of my mind is some of these larger buildings, they offer fitness facilities or fitness rooms. And, what is that going to look like? Is anyone going to want to use them? And is that space going to transform into something else? And are we going to start looking at more amenities as, are there walking paths outside? Are there sidewalks? Can I walk, to a place where I can maybe get some physical exercise versus, taking my lunch hour in the fitness room? And again, air quality is a huge factor in all of this. I know in the past we've talked a lot about like sick building syndrome, and I think there are definitely buildings out there that have those conditions, and really taking a look before tenants come back at the air quality and maintaining and updating and adjusting the filters to provide more fresh air, provide better circulation throughout the space. Seeing with all that we have going on and all the research that's going into this virus, I think there are certain things that as a whole they've been underlying issues in the past, or things, concerns, and I think now that they're going to be put more at the forefront in order to really make our employees, our society as a whole, feel more comfortable about being in spaces in general.
I agree. It's definitely changed my own mindset and awareness of the way that diseases are transmitted. It's so much more than, just kissing or being coughed on, on the subway. So, I agree. I think this will be really interesting as we all, as the technology kind of develops and adapts to things that we need in the immediate. So as property owners, something that your company specifically has been doing that I think, property owners should consider as well. Your company has put a survey out there saying, to your people, hey, what's important to you? What concerns do you have? Do you recommend that property owners do the same for their tenants as we look towards, slowly reopening everything back to business?
I do. I think because just like us as individuals, companies have had to deal with this differently. Some of them have had to lay off employees. Some of them, are on the brinks of having to close their doors. And, through all this isn't anything that a company could plan for. If somebody walked in their door 6 months ago and said, do you have a business? Do you have a plan in place for your business for a global pandemic? And if the world shuts down, you would see them right out the door. That would,
right? Yeah.
You're crazy. Yeah. None of us envisioned that we would be here in this place that we are right now. And so it's really hard, it's been really hard for a lot of employers to navigate this. And I think just having that open line of communication with, where they're at and what they need, and being there just to hear where they're at, to gain an understanding of, what it looks like, what that space that they're renting, how that might best transform for them. We're doing these physical distancing analysis for clients, and that we're offering to see, where their space kind of measures up into the 6-foot radius, and whether it's, a landlord offering that service to their tenants so they have a better understanding of how their space works, that they might not be in the spot to be able to do that for themselves, but to be able to show them that this space works for you, or maybe there are some areas of concern, but being able to adjust their space for their new needs. They might need a smaller space because they might not have as many employees returning back to their workspace, into their workplace, and some of what we're seeing in the workplace is stretching that employee footprint that over the years we've tightened up quite a bit and packed us all in. We're definitely going to see that growing back out and expanding a bit to literally give people more breathing room. And I think some of that might cause the need for a bigger footprint. And, maybe that footprint isn't available. Maybe it's a conversation of, offsetting schedules, alternating, who's in the office when, to maintain that same footprint, to, keep that tenant, to keep that rent in place or what have you, but strategically think of how you can be a resource and kind of a light to some of the tenants that, might need that at this time, that guidance, that flexibility, just as a way to say that, like, we're in this and you're supported, and what can we do at this time to help you, stay in your space and keep your doors open.
Right. And, communication is key, exactly like you said, as property owners communicating to your tenants, asking, hey, what do you need? What would you like to see? Here's what we're planning to do. And then as tenants being responsive to that inquiry. Yeah. Hey, here's what I'm experiencing. Here's what I'm thinking we'll need. Here's my plan to have people, work in shifts. There'll probably be more people in the office space in the evenings than before, because I'm only having half my crew come in during the day. Things like that, just mutual communication, so everyone knows what's going on, and together we can figure out how to keep everybody healthy and safe. So Elizabeth, thank you so much for your insight. You're just a ray of sunshine and knowledge, and I appreciate your comments here. Any other general parting words for property owners, commercial owners? I'll for sure make post your contact information so that property owners know how to reach you, reach your company, perhaps request some of those space analysis that you're doing. But any parting words from you? Thank you so much.
Oh, of course. Yeah. I think, just having the mindset that we're all in this together. We're all, the workplace itself is, going to see a shift and a change, and so are the buildings that we occupy. And, this is a new adventure for all of us, and walking it together and seeing how we can best help each other, like hand in hand, is what's going to be key to succeeding through all of this.
I love it. Well, thank you again so much. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks, Lindsay.